Good afternoon. Welcome to the first meeting of the Assembly Committee on Education, the most studious committee in the Nevada State Legislature. Mr. Lindsley, would you please call the roll?
Assembly members De Silva, Dahlia, DeLong, Flanagan, Hanson, Hardy, Hunt, Koenig, LaRue Hatch, Mosca, Orentlicher, and Chair Torres Fawcett.
Here. It looks like we are all here. Welcome to our audience here in Carson City. We have a packed room, and thank you to those of us joining us in what appears to be a very full room in Las Vegas, Nevada. And thank you to everyone tuning in over the internet. Today we have a busy afternoon, although pretty light. We're going to have introductions, adoption of committee policies, and presentations from committee staff and the State Public Charter School Authority. Before we start, I will like to make several housekeeping announcements. When testifying, please turn the microphones on to speak and then off to listen. We have listeners and viewers here in Las Vegas and online. We are recording this meeting, so it will also be available on the legislature's website at a later time. If you have handouts for the committee, please provide 20 copies for the committee secretary prior to your testimony. In addition, exhibits and amendments must be submitted electronically as a PDF file to our committee manager no later than noon on the business day before the meeting. Committee information is available on Nellis, which can be accessed through the legislature's website. You may also watch our meetings through Nellis or on the legislature's very popular YouTube channel. We ask that the public's comments be kept to 2 minutes so that everyone interested in speaking can be accommodated. And this also ensures that we get through the agenda in a very timely fashion. Speakers are urged to avoid repeating comments made by previous speakers. Our favorite thing for you to say is ditto. Members of the public may provide testimony on a bill either in person or by telephone. Written public comment may be submitted before, during, or up to 24 hours after meeting adjournment. I expect courtesy and respect in our interactions, even if we do not agree. And for some reason in education, we don't always agree all of the time. So please just make sure we maintain that courtesy in every interaction in this chamber, in this committee room, and also in our offices. And finally, please make sure that you mute your electronic devices, especially cell phones and laptops during the meeting. With that, we will go ahead and move on to our first agenda item. So to start, I would like to take a few minutes to introduce members of the committee and committee staff. Members of each of you would like to introduce yourselves. Please include the district that you represent, the year that you were first elected, how many sessions you've served on the Committee on Education, and maybe your favorite school memory. So we'll go ahead and start today with our Vice Chair, Assemblyman De Silva.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Ruben De Silva. This is my second session serving on education, second session ever. I'm a sophomore. And I am a school teacher, so education is a issue that is very important to me. I believe it's one of the foundational issues that we're going to be toggling with this session and all sessions. To be quite honest, I teach at Rancho High School, my alma mater. I've been a teacher now for 12 years, and I'm looking forward to the work at hand and looking forward to working with you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and just kind of continue and circle around. So we'll go to Assemblymember Koenig, and then we'll come to the bottom row next. And as a reminder, because I know I already forgot what we're supposed to say, introduce yourself, the district you represent, or the area that you represent, the year you were elected, and how many sessions you've been on the Committee on Education, and your favorite education or school memory.
Press my mic helps. I represent District 38, which goes from Fallon to Tonopah. This is my second session, second time on ed. And I think my favorite education memory was a school board trustee with a gymnasium full of irritated parents that we were going to instill a dress code in. We ended up not, but anyways.
All right, I am Assemblymember Selena LaRue Hatch, and I represent District 25, which is in West Reno. And I am also a social studies teacher in Washoe County. I teach world history. I was first elected in 2022. This is my second session and also my second term on Education Committee. This is absolutely my favorite committee. I think we do the most important work here. My favorite school memory is very different from my colleagues, I think. I when I was a sophomore in high school, I had my teacher, Brett Berry. He taught world history. When he taught us about World War I, he locked the door, which he had never done before, and smoke was pouring out of the classroom floor, and we didn't know what was happening. And he whipped open the door, and he had on a gas mask, and he went down, 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 and he made us all run and get under the desks. And he had a little squirt bottle that he'd spray us with if you poked your head over, and that is how we learned about trench warfare. And it was the most fun I have had in a history class, and definitely the reason that I am a history teacher today. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Assemblyman Rich DeLong. I'm a sophomore. This is my second term, first time on education. My district is District 26, which is the south part of Reno and southwest Washoe County. I'm a geologist and businessman in my daytime. And Chair, I'm disappointed we're not in the hardest working committee this session.
But alas, you are at least on the most studious.
And I might learn something.
Good afternoon. I'm Assemblymember Tanya Flanagan. I represent District 7. I'm in Southern Nevada. That is most of North Las Vegas, and a sliver of Las Vegas starts at Cheyenne and goes over to Lone Mountain, around Rancho and Jones, down in Ellis and Lamb. It is my first session, so it's my first time on the Education Committee, but excited to be here. My fondest memory is not quite mine per se, but it's the purpose of education and why we pour into one another. So it's attending Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary School as a child, and then having my best friend of 41 years grow up to become the principal at our elementary school, and then having her goddaughter grow up to graduate college and become a new teacher at that school just this past year. So that is my fondest memory of education as I think about the importance of legacy in education and academics. Thank you.
I'm Assemblywoman Melissa Hardy, and I represent Assembly District 22, which covers areas of Henderson around the Green Valley Ranch area, original Henderson, and Cadence. I was first elected in 2018, so this is my fourth session and my fourth time being on education. It's a very important committee. I'm very passionate about education, and so I'm thrilled to be here on this committee again. My fondest childhood memory of education kind of goes along with why I ended up in the legislature, my love for government and politics. In second grade, we always did show and tell. And a lot of my classmates, brought in animals and some pretty cool things. And I thought, oh, well, what's something different than I can bring? And so at the time, my mom was a regional representative for our U.S. Congressman here in Nevada, the lone congressman at the time. And so I said, I'll just bring him for show and tell. So I did, and we got all of the news and the press there, and it was really quite spectacular, and again, just shows how much I love serving and being in these positions. So thank you.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Linda Hunt. I represent Assembly District 17 in North Las Vegas, and this is my very first session. I'm a food server in local casino in Las Vegas, and I'm also a realtor. And for me, education is very important because my fondest memories is my parents and my teachers. They was always actively involved in my education, inside and outside the classroom. So that meant a lot to me. So I pushed that, forward. I made sure that I did with my son and other children that needed it as well. So thank you for letting me be here, and I appreciate it, and I'm glad I'm on this committee because education is the key to our future.
Good afternoon, Assemblymember Joe Daly, representing Assembly District 29 in Henderson. I am also a newbie. I was elected last year, so this is my first time on the Education Committee. My favorite education memory actually came last fall when I dropped my 5-year-old daughter off at my old elementary school, so very special moment. So thank you for having me here. Thank you.
David Orientlicker, Assembly District 20 on the southeast side of Las Vegas. If you're on the UNLV campus in Walk East, that's Assembly District 20. I was first elected in 2020, so this is my third term, first on education, which I'm glad to be on as an educator myself, and lots of good memories. The ones I think about are the teachers. I had a biology teacher and then one in law school who were really good about teaching us how to think ahead, not just learn what we were being told, but to think about what was coming next. And so I try to do that.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. Assemblywoman Hanson, District 32. So I live in Sparks. I have a large chunk of Washoe, all of Lander County, all of Pershing, all of Humboldt, a little bit of Eureka County, and a western sliver of Elko County. So certainly I have a lot of urban and rural school district issues, 6 school districts, and 6 superintendents, and I love my district and appreciate the engagement I've had with them. I was first elected in 2018. This is my 4th term, and I share some of the same sentiments that were just mentioned by my colleague about teachers, counselors, coaches that I've had over the years. Go Railroaders, Sparks High, woo-woo, class of 78, really touched my life. So I really do value how important teachers, administrators, coaches are in the lives of students. Lots of good memories, but probably a crucial one was a very impactful UNLV, Fremont Cannon football game at November 19th, 1977 with the junior class president, who's now a senator in the next house. So be careful who you go on a date with. You never know how it's going to turn out. So probably my best memory started there with Senator Hanson at that football game. And yes, UNR won. So thank you very much.
Go Pack.
Well, thank you, Chair. My name is Erica Mosca. I represent Assembly District 14 in East Las Vegas. This is my 2nd session and my 2nd time on education, which I'm very grateful. And my favorite school memory is actually when I was in the 11th grade. I moved to a higher income school out of a Title I school, and though it was actually really difficult, it's my favorite memory because it's what taught me about educational equity and really put me on the trajectory that I am today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I'll go ahead and take a moment to introduce myself. I am super excited to serve as chair of the most studious committee in the Nevada State Legislature. I have been sitting on this committee. This is my 4th time. So I had the opportunity to serve as a freshman with Assemblymember Hardy and Assemblymember Hanson. So it's really exciting to be back on this committee for the 4th time in this role. I was born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada, in my Assembly District 3 in the heart of Las Vegas. I'm a graduate of our public education system. I've attended several institutions here in the state of Nevada, including College of Southern Nevada, and obviously the Wolfpack at the University of Nevada. And I'm also received my master's at UNLV, and I'm a proud alum of the College of Education at UNLV as well. My favorite education moment or memory has to be sitting in this room. So my mom, I'm going to make her wave. My mom is sitting here. My sister, my husband, and my brother-in-law, and all of us actually work in education. My mom has been an educator for as long as I can remember. And I think that probably started my passion for education and is the reason why I continue to work in education today, and why I'm so excited to work on education policy that is going to improve student achievement for all of our kiddos, because I do believe every student deserves access to a high quality education regardless of where they come from. And I know that the work that we do in this room helps create that and create those systems and structures and impacts people and it impacts systems. So I'm really excited to serve on this committee. But none of that work would be possible without our phenomenal staff. So we'll go in order. I know some of our members of our staff might be excited to introduce themselves, some less likely. So if you don't want to introduce yourself, I'll help you and give you an introduction. But I'll go ahead and pass it over first to our policy analyst, Ms. Kelly Lower.
Thank you, Chair. Kelly Lower, Committee Policy Analyst. I'm from Wyoming, born and raised in Casper. My background is in anthropology and French, was my undergrad, and then my master's is in sustainable development. This is my first session with Nevada. Prior to working for the LCB Research Division, I was a research analyst with the Wyoming Legislative Service Office. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I'll go next to our legal counsel for the second time for me, Asher Killian.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Asher Killian, Committee Counsel. I'm originally from Oklahoma. I've been out here with the Nevada Legislature since 2007, so 18 years now. Served as the Committee Counsel for the Senate Committee on Education a few times. This is my second time with the Assembly Committee on Education. Also served the chair as counsel for the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs before. Received my undergraduate degrees and law degree from the University of Oklahoma. Excited to be out here working on this committee again. And my education fun fact is I had some free time in the interim, so I decided to squeeze in a Master's of Public Administration from a university here in Nevada. And I'm afraid I might create a political issue if I say which one. So I'll just leave it at that.
All I heard was go pack. Ms. Dodge, our committee manager. Would you like me to introduce you? All right, I got you. She was raised in California, moved to Alaska at age 18, where she spent over 45 years. In 2020, she joined her two sisters here in our beautiful state of Nevada. While in Alaska, Ms. Dodge earned degrees in technology, business, human and organizational theory, culminating in a PhD. She maintained technology and IT on the Trans-Alaska Pipeline, staffed the Economic Development Commission for the Fairbanks North Star Borough, was research director for the Cold Climate Housing Research Center, and assistant professor for the University of Alaska Fairbanks. Ms. Dodge, it should be Dr. Dodge, has been active in animal rescue for over 20 years, most recently as the president of the Douglas Animal Welfare Group in Gardnerville, Nevada. Next is Ms. Mary Whalen. And Ms. Mary Whalen, our committee assistant, moved with her family to Washoe Valley from Colorado Springs, Colorado in 1983. She and her husband, George, have 3 children and 4 loving grandchildren that keep them entertained with their many activities, which they thoroughly enjoy. Mary has retired from teaching 4 times and recently left teaching kindergarteners. So she's still in her retirement here with us at the legislature. And she recently retired from teaching kindergarteners how to read and to join, so that she could join our legislature. Mary enjoys reading, cooking, walking, golf, and yoga. Our committee secretary, Mr. B.C. Lindsley, is a father of 2. He has 3 nieces, 5 nephews, and 33 godchildren. Kids are a huge part of his life. He has a background in engineering and is a product design and is a small business owner. He took this job to learn firsthand about the legislative process so that he can teach his children about civics with accuracy. He is super excited to be here. And last on my list, I have Miss Olivia Nyo. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? Go ahead.
Alrighty, hello committee members, happy first day. My name is Olivia No, and I have the distinct joy and honor of being Chair Torres Fawcett's attaché for the 83rd session. I was born and raised in Reno, and I recently graduated summa cum laude from the University of Nevada, Reno in spring of 2024. Go Pack, not to be repetitive. Congratulations to the men's basketball team for winning their game against UNLV. But I graduated with my Bachelor of Arts in Political Science as well as musical theater. I've been performing in front of people since I was about 5 years old, and I really love it. It's really helped me nurture a passion for uplifting diverse human stories and all human perspectives, and that's kind of the drive that I try to bring to my work every day in the legislature and in the political landscape in general. During the previous legislative session, I did intern with the chair as well, and I became very fond of the People's Branch of Government and the Assembly Education Committee specifically. If you guys remember seeing my face, I did present a bill with the chair last session, so that was super fun. I love this building, I love the people in it and the work that we do, and that's kind of what inspired me to come back this session full time, so I'm excited to be working with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. We are really excited to have you in our office. So if you all are making meetings with me, be kind to Miss Olivia. She'll be there cheering on the wolf pack and making sure that our committee is running smoothly. Last but not least, I would like to thank our audiovisual and hearing staff who make these meetings possible throughout the year. Is there any other staff maybe that I haven't given a shout out to, just wants to wave, so we can give them some appreciation? I know there's one hiding, but we appreciate you. Thank you so much. You're with our IT team. Yes, and we really need our IT working and our computers, and all the different things that can go wrong in this room. So thank you so much for being here. We're so happy to have you be a part of this committee throughout the legislative session. With that, let's go ahead and get started. First, we're going to go ahead and go over our committee policies. Our first order of business is the adoption of the committee's policies, which have been posted on the legislature's website. These policies are fairly standard and similar to those approved in other committees. They serve to complement the Assembly standing rules and joint standing rules that we adopted on Monday in the full Assembly. Are there any questions on the committee policies? Seeing none, I will take a motion to adopt the policies for the Assembly Committee on Education. I have a motion from Vice Chair De Silva. Do I have a second? I have a second from Assembly Member Mosca. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, say nay. This motion does carry and passes unanimously. At this time, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item of our committee brief, and that is a presentation from our committee policy analyst, Ms. Kelly Lower, who will present that committee brief.
Thank you, Chair. Kelly Lower, Committee Policy Analyst for the record. As a reminder, as a nonpartisan LCB staff member, I may neither support nor oppose any measure before the committee. Today, I'll be providing an overview of the committee brief. Each of you should have a copy of the brief in your materials. There are also public copies in the hearing rooms and online on our committee page on Nellis. Starting on page 1 of the brief, you'll see a list of committee staff and topics generally under the committee's jurisdiction. The Assembly Education Committee considers topics that generally reside in Title 34 of the Nevada Reserved Statutes. While the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means typically reviews bills pertaining to education finance, measures that have both a fiscal and policy implication may still be considered by this committee. At the top of page 2, you can see in the 2023 session, this committee considered a total of 65 bills, with 50 voted out of the committee and 33 signed into law. Based on activity in recent sessions, the committee may expect a similar level of activity this session. Also on page 2 is a list of significant legislation relating to education passed in the 2023 and 2021 sessions. These are broken down into bills relating to pre-kindergarten through 12th grade and post-secondary education. I won't discuss every bill listed here today. However, should any of the committee members wish for more information on any of these measures, I'm happy to provide that later. I will just touch on a few though. First, relating to charter schools, as the committee will hear a presentation from the State Public Charter School Authority later today, I wanted to mention AB 185 from the last session, which is on page 2, which authorizes a charter school to give preference in enrollment to a child whose parent or legal guardian is a member of the military. And on page 7, AB 68 from the 2021 session, which relates to charter school contracts. Additionally, relating to school funding, on which the committee will hear a presentation on Thursday, I'd note SB 231 from the 2023 session on page 4, which appropriated $250 million to the Interim Finance Committee for allocation to public schools, eligible districts being those that budgeted for salary increases for teachers and support professionals for fiscal years 2023 through 2024 and 2024 through 2025. Also, AB 495 from the 2021 session on page 7, which provided for the imposition and payment of an excise tax on gross proceeds from certain mining companies, with all revenue from this tax to be deposited in the State Education Fund as of July 1, 2023. Also in this list of legislation are 2 bills relating to bullying, AB 65 from the 2023 session, and this bill relates to investigations and reporting of bullying, cyberbullying, and discrimination based on race, as well as AB 371 from the 2021 session, which expands provisions relating to bullying and cyberbullying to additionally prohibit and address discrimination based on race. Next, on page 10, is an overview of the 2023 through 2024 Joint Interim Committee on Education, including a list of topics discussed and a list of bill draft requests from proposals for legislation approved by the committee. Moving to page 11, you'll find a list of potential topics to be discussed by the committee this session. These are compiled from a review of bill draft requests and the Governor's State of the State address. Many of these topics were also discussed by the Joint Interim Committee on Education, such as accountability, charter schools, higher education issues such as affordability, and early childhood education. At the top of page 12 is a list of bills that have been referred to the committee. Since this brief was finalized, 7 more bills have been referred to the committee. So that is a moving target. Also on page 12 is a list of statutorily required reports to the legislature relating to education. These are divided into elementary and secondary school reports and higher education related reports. This list is not intended to be exhaustive. However, if any committee members have questions about any reports related to education, I'm happy to follow up later. Of note is the first report under elementary and secondary education reports. This is the report concerning the state of public education, which the committee will hear on Thursday. Page 14, 2 pages later, notes the final report of the work from the Joint Interim Committee on Education and provides an overview of educational entities in Nevada and their membership, such as the State Board of Education, the Superintendent of Public Instruction, the Commission on School Funding, the NSHE Chancellor, and the State Public Charter School Authority, which the committee will hear from later this meeting. And lastly, starting on page 16, is a list of commonly used education acronyms that may be a helpful reference. And with that, Chair, I'll stand for any questions.
Members, any questions? It doesn't appear there are any questions. Thank you, Ms. Zoer, for the presentation. And this is a really helpful resource, so something you might want to keep on hand. It does have quite a bit of reading material. And like the policy analyst mentioned earlier today, we did have several bills referred that you can continue following along while we're on the floor. But please feel free to reach out to our staff too, or myself, and then we can connect you with the right people if you need a list of bills as well. All right, with that, we will go to the next item on the agenda. We have a presentation from Melissa McInton, the Executive Director, and Samantha King-Powell, the General Counsel of the State Public Charter School Authority. Please begin when you're ready. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. I am Melissa McInton, Melissa Mackedon, Executive Director for the Nevada State Public Charter School Authority. And with me today, I have Samantha King-Powell, our General Counsel. So we will go ahead and get started. Quickly reviewing 3 specific bills passed in Nevada related to public charter schools helps us understand the current landscape. In 1997, SB 220 passed, allowing school districts and the Nevada Department of Education to authorize charter schools. Shortly thereafter, Washoe County and Clark County each authorized a handful of schools, as did the Nevada Department of Education. In 2011, SB 212 created a statewide charter school authorizer known as the State Public Charter School Authority, which we are representing today. That bill also allowed colleges and universities to sponsor charter schools, although to date none have applied to do so. Last session, AB 400 passed and expanded authorizing authority to cities and counties. Please understand that we are only in a position to discuss charter schools that are in the state public charter school portfolio, and those schools will be the focus of this presentation. The Nevada Department of Education serves as the state education agency. As noted on the previous slide, it has approved school districts that have applied to authorize charter schools, including Washoe, Clark, and Carson City School District. It has also recently approved 2 cities to authorize charter schools, the city of North Las Vegas and the city of Henderson. And then in the middle of the graph there, you will see the State Public Charter School Authority, which we discussed was created in 2011 as a statewide charter school authorizer, meaning we can approve charter schools in all 17 counties. In addition to being an authorizer, the SPCSA is also the local education agent, or LEA, and a state agency. We have authorized 44 active charter schools. There is a charter contract between the boards of each of these schools and the SPCSA, and you see that noted in that gray arrow there in the graphic. Like all public schools, the charter school board may enter into contracts with vendors it believes can support its mission. Lastly, I would like to highlight one additional nuance on this slide regarding pupil-centered funding payments. It is essential to understand that pupil-centered funding payments go directly from the Nevada Department of Education to the public charter school. I'd like to spend a few minutes on the 3 roles of the SPCSA. According to NRS 388A.150, the SPCSA has 3 defined purposes regarding authorization. First, to authorize charter schools of high quality throughout the state. Second, to provide oversight to the charter schools that it sponsors. And lastly, to serve as a model of best practice in sponsoring the charter schools and fostering a climate in the state in which all high-quality charter schools, regardless of sponsor, can flourish. Our second role is that of a state agency, and I believe this committee fully understands the roles of a state agency. So what I'd really like to do is spend some time talking about our third role, that of the local education agency, or the LEA. In most states, charter schools serve as their own LEA. But in Nevada, the State Public Charter School Authority serves as the LEA. And some of those responsibilities of LEAs include ensuring that each student receives free appropriate public education, FAPE. So obviously FAPE encompasses almost everything, right? We've listed a few: Title I, Title II, Title III, Title IV, Title IX, academic standards, anti-bullying policies, McKinney-Vento, FERPA, ESSA. Additionally, the LEA ensures that special education and related services are provided in our sponsored charter schools. And lastly, we allocate federal grants and some state grants proportionally to eligible charter schools within the state. The SPCSA collects a sponsorship fee from each school to ensure that we have the funding required to meet our obligations as the authorizer and the LEA. The SPCSA has a 10-member board, which includes 9 voting members and 1 student member. Additionally, as the LEA, we receive an estimated $48.7 million in grant funding and about $15 million of remaining emergency funds this fiscal year. Allocating federal dollars and some state grant funds to eligible schools in our portfolio is one of the core responsibilities of the LEA. There is a clear distinction between the roles of the SPCSA board and the individual charter school boards. Let's begin by looking at the core responsibilities of the SPCSA board, which include evaluating, approving, or declining applications to form a new school, entering into contracts with charter school boards, monitoring the performance and compliance of each charter school, determining whether a charter contract should be renewed or terminated, determining whether to approve or deny a request to amend a charter contract, like for an expansion or a relocation, and conducting site evaluations. The core responsibilities of the individual school boards who hold the charter contract with the SPCSA are largely the same as any public school board in Nevada. This includes things like hiring school leaders, identifying and contracting with vendors who will help the school reach its goals, approving and monitoring the school's budget per state statute, and approving policies, to name a few. On this slide, I want to start out by reminding the committee that in the state, in Nevada, it is illegal for a charter school to be for-profit. In Nevada, all charter schools are non-for-profit entities, and we want to make sure that is very clear. As a reminder, the charter holder is the school's governing board. We currently have 44 charter holders. The governing board may oversee one campus or may oversee multiple campuses as determined in its charter contract. Each campus has a school leader as well as teachers and other support staff. The 44 charter holders that we currently authorize or currently operate on 80 different campuses. Like all public school boards, charter school boards may enter into contract with vendors they believe can help them reach their goals. Public charter schools may have agreements with vendors that support information technology, companies that provide janitorial services, attorneys, payroll companies, companies like NWEA Maps or iReady, which provide assessments, or education management organizations or charter management organizations. On the right-hand side of this screen, you see the types of vendors that all public schools contract with, many of which we just discussed on the last slide. On the left, you see two types of vendors unique to charter schools: education management organizations and charter management organizations. Because these are unique to charter schools, we want to spend a few minutes talking about what contract or what central services these entities might provide. These include things like financing, helping prepare the budget, professional development, coaching, curriculum design, student registration, grants administration, or state reporting requirements. Charter schools pay these entities for the specific services they provide. Payment structures vary depending on the company. There are currently 16 SPCSA charter holders that contract with 6 different EMOs throughout the state, and 2 schools that contract with 2 different CMOs throughout the state. Charter schools are granted some autonomy to make decisions, but with that autonomy comes additional oversight and accountability, above and beyond what traditional public schools receive. As you can see in this table, both traditional public schools and public charter schools are measured on the NSPF and ACING accountability. Charter schools are also, by law, subject to an additional academic performance framework. Like all public schools, charter schools must have an annual independent audit. But additionally, by law, they are subject to a financial performance framework. The financial performance framework gauges both near-term financial health and longer-term financial sustainability. Beyond that, public charter schools are held accountable for an organizational performance framework, are subject to regular site evaluations, and are subject to automatic termination. In Nevada, if a public charter school receives a 1-star rating 3 times in any 5-year period, their charter contract shall be terminated. Let's dig into some specifics regarding the SPCSA and the schools in our portfolio. As previously mentioned, statute defines our creation and purpose. We exist to authorize charter schools, provide oversight to those schools, and serve as a model of best practice. The vision of the SPCSA is equitable access to diverse, innovative, and high-quality public schools for every Nevada student. The mission of the SPCSA is to sponsor, support, and oversee dynamic and responsive public charter schools that prepare all students for academic, social, and economic success. The SPCSA has 44 charter holders operating 80 campuses across 5 counties in Nevada, including Churchill, Clark, Elko, Washoe, and White Pine. 85% of schools are located in Clark County. As you can see, the SPCSA is the 3rd largest LEA, or local education agent, in the state. This table represents enrollment trends for the SPCSA since 2018. As you can see, the percentage of growth has been smaller in the last 2 years. This year, we saw the smallest percent change over the previous 7 years, with just a 2.7% increase. We are proud to offer a diverse group of schools within our portfolio. We have Montessori schools, bilingual schools, career and technical schools, all girls' schools, classical models, and schools with a STEM focus, just to name a few. While we are proud of the diversity of school types in our portfolio, we are even prouder of our student outcomes. We take accountability very seriously, and student outcomes are at the heart of every decision we make. The first goal of our strategic plan was to provide families with access to high-quality schools. 73% of schools in our portfolio are meeting or exceeding standards on the Nevada School Performance Framework. 52% are exceeding those standards. Additionally, the SPCSA has a graduation rate of 83.3%, with all but one alternative school exceeding the statewide graduation rate. This slide provides national context for the SPCSA performance in English language arts and math on the Smarter Balanced, or SBAC, assessment, which is given in 3rd to 8th grade. We located a sample of states that also administer the SBAC, including California, Connecticut, Delaware, Oregon, and Washington, and found that in both ELA and math, the SPCSA outperformed those states shown for the 23-24 school year, which was similar to last year's results as well. It is essential that we dig deeper into more detail regarding our student outcomes. Specifically, we like to look at how our Title I schools are doing. 54% of our schools qualify as Title I, the same percentage as in the state overall. For the state overall, only 1 in 5 Title I schools had a 3-star rating or higher, while the SPCSA outperformed the state with about 47% of Title I schools having a 3-star rating or higher. About three-quarters of non-Title I schools across the state had an NSPF rating of 3 stars or higher, whereas about 95% of SPCSA non-Title I schools earned at least 3-star rating. We recognize the discrepancy in outcomes between Title I schools and non-Title I schools in our portfolio, and we are committed to seeing that number improve and closing that achievement gap. The strategic plan's second goal was to ensure that every SPCSA student succeeds, including those from historically underserved student groups. As you can see in this slide, every subgroup, including students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, students who have an IEP, and students who are English language learners, are outperforming the state in proficiency rates in both English language arts and math as measured by the SBAC test given in 3rd through 8th grade in all public schools in Nevada. In high school, students take the ACT test in 11th grade. As you can see, almost every subgroup is outperforming the state in ELA and math on the ACT. The one exception is students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, which is a metric we will be keeping an eye on this year to see if that improves. In addition to ACT proficiency, we also look at graduation rates among high school students. As you can see, all but 2 subgroups have a higher graduation rate at public charter schools. I think it is important to note that the 23-24 data includes Beacon Academy, an alternative high school doing amazing work for Nevada's most vulnerable students, a school that is in our portfolio. Were we to pull Beacon out of this data, our FRL grad rate would be 95%, which is significantly higher than the state at 81.6%. The third goal of our strategic plan is to increase the diversity of students served by the SPCSA schools. Owing to recent initiatives and state legislation that have resulted in more strategic authorizing, such as the Demographic and Academic Needs Assessment, there are some positive trends towards the SPCSA serving a population more representative of the state. Specifically, if you look at schools we have opened since the 2019 legislative session, which mandated more strategic authorizing, you will see that the schools we have recently approved actually exceed the state in certain subgroups, including Hispanic and Latino students, and English language learner students. You will also see that the free and reduced lunch category and the students with disability category is much higher since that, targeted authorizing. This next graph looks specifically at SPCSA trends over the last 3 years as compared to the state average this year. We see steady progress towards alignment with state demographics. We are committed to staying focused on that goal. And then very quickly, before I take questions, I do just want to highlight for you a few things in the appendix. If you want to click through, yep, perfect. Go ahead. So I'm just going to go really quickly so you know what's there. First up, we have a list of the new schools that are going to, or of all the schools that we have opened since 2020 on next slide. Next slide. We have the schools that are scheduled to open next school year. Next slide. We also have the Clark County schools that will be joining our portfolio next school year. Next slide. We jump into the star ratings, and we there is a graph in here. If you want to click. I wanted to include a list of, it's slide 41, of every charter school and their outcomes. That way, committee members, if you want to look up the schools within your district, you have it right there at your fingertips. Next slide. Proficiency on state assessments. I really like these next few slides because, it's important that we dive into each subgroup, and this shows 3-year historical trends for subgroups. Every subgroup, math and reading and science at the high school and elementary school level. So there's a ton of historical data here, and you can look at trends. Again, I'm not going to talk to you about every single bit of it. And then lastly, just keep sliding through those. Perfect. We also included a list of all of our high schools. So same thing, if there is a charter high school in your district, wanted that information to be at your fingertips so you could see what their ratings were. And some other just historical trend data regarding graduation. I do want to stop right here. Thank you, Samantha. This is one that we are really proud of. This is our advanced or CCR diploma rates. You can see last year, the class of 23-24, we had 54.7% of students who graduated in a public charter high school received a college and career ready or advanced diploma. And I think this is really important because, this shows that these kids are really set up to be successful on whatever they choose to do next, whether it be workforce or going on for further education. And last but not least, we have a few more graphs on enrollment and demographic trends. And with that, I am happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much for all the information and for this really robust presentation. At this time, I will go ahead and go open to questions. So I'm just taking a look right now. Okay, perfect. I'll go ahead and begin with Assemblywoman Mosca.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Director, for this very helpful report. I have 2 questions. I'll say them both, but can repeat if you need. But as a former member of the SPCSA, I really appreciate this overview. And so on page 5, you talked about the board. I think it'd be great if we could also share on the record how the SPCSA, there are requirements to actually be on the board. And the second on page 27, if you could talk more about strategic authorizing. For example, we know you cannot open a public charter school just anywhere anymore, and that there are requirements. I think it would be helpful. Thank you.
Melissa McAdin for the record. With your permission, Chair Torres Fawcett, may I go directly to the Assembly member who asked the question?
Yes, please do.
Okay. Thank you for that question, Assembly Member Mosca. First up, the SPCSA board. Yes, I don't have it memorized, but certainly statute does. Are you talking about the authority board or the school board? So actually in both cases, the authority board and the school board, statute does define that you have to have certain expertise and qualifications to serve on that board.
Thank you, Chair. And then for the second
Yeah,
question.
yeah. So the second question about strategic authorizing. In 2019, after that session, we were required to do an annual demographic needs assessment. And what that assessment does is it looks for student groups who either are at risk of dropping out based on historical data, or chronically have underachieved, or geographies that have a lot of 1- and 2-star schools. And now, in order to be authorized to open a charter school, you have to show that you are meeting one of those needs, or more, one or more, right? So you have to show that I am, in my charter application, I am targeting a zip code where there are no 3, 4, or 5-star schools. I'm setting out specifically to serve English language learners. I'm setting out specifically to serve students who qualify for free and reduced price lunch. So if you're not meeting one of those needs, you really cannot get a charter school authorized anymore or open through the State Public Charter School Authority.
Thank you. Vice Chair De Silva.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Director, for that great presentation. My question was in some ways answered by the question that was asked by Assemblymember Mosca. But there has been a perception out there that oftentimes the students who are most disadvantaged economically, coming from our poorest zip codes, are oftentimes not accessing or being able to access charters, at the same level as public other K through 12s. So my question was, I know you did refer to this in your last answer, but is there a plan to actually address that gap? And the numbers here seem to actually correlate. That's the one area where charters are not keeping up with traditional K through 12. So if there is a plan of action or some sort of maybe a long-term goal to maybe bridge those numbers. Thank you.
Melissa McAdin, for the record, thank you for that question, Assembly Member. Yes, there is. So first I want to point out a couple things. One, you can see that since we put that needs assessment in, we've made huge gains. The schools we're authorizing now are really hitting all of those targets. The exception that you're talking about is free and reduced lunch. That's the one where it seems like there's a discrepancy. Couple things that I want to point out that are sort of kind of skewing that data, and I think it's important going into the session for everyone to understand. Community eligibility programs for free and reduced lunch made it possible for school districts who have 25% of their kids directly qualifying for free and like direct cert free and reduced lunch. They can now say our whole district is free and reduced lunch. CEP is a great program. We are all in favor of that. But what that did, obviously, is when large school districts like Clark County said, we're gonna become community eligible. Well, now it's skewing state data to look like 86, 87% of the state is qualifying for free and reduced price lunch. So it's not as faithful of a number as it used to be. That said, we absolutely, what you said is also still true, right? Both things are true. So we absolutely are doing what we can to close that gap. One of the main things is in the last session, we were able to get some transportation funding. Transportation is a major equity issue. If you don't have a parent or a caretaker who could drop you off at a charter school before that happened, there wasn't really a way to get you to that school. And that really limited a lot of families' accessibility to charter schools. So certainly transportation, obviously hoping to see that funding continue so that we can offer it to more schools. We allocated all of it. We couldn't allocate it to all the schools who wanted it. So certainly looking to expand access that way for sure. That's probably the biggest way.
Thank you. Assemblyman Koenig.
Great presentation. Thank you. Melissa, is it possible for you and I to meet together offline in the semi-near future and talk about funding for charter schools for students with special needs and special education? I need to educate a little bit on that.
Sure. Melissa McAdin, for the record. I'd love nothing more.
Thank you.
Assemblymember Koenig.
Assemblymember Ortlinger.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for this presentation and all this great data. And the way you've broken out the data by different groups suggests that the charter schools are really doing an excellent job. What I'm not sure about, and I'm wondering if you have data, it's possible, just thinking about the way numbers work, that the students and the families that choose charters are different, even within each subgroup, than the ones who stay in the public schools. And do you have any data that sort that, like, for example, how people change in what their performance was like in their regular public schools, how it compares with charter schools, so that we can figure out whether you're just getting the... I remember in a charter school authorizer in a different state saying their secret sauce was they just had especially committed parents and teachers. Well, that's not something you can replicate if you're just getting the most committed parents and teachers. So how about it? What's it like here?
Melissa Mackinnon, for the record. Thank you for that question. Well, I want to go on the record and say that I think there are committed parents and teachers in all schools of all types. So I don't think that, charter schools have like a corner on that or anything. As far as like really being able to hone in on like specific things that make them different, I don't know specifically what that would be, what we would be tracking. We certainly have data that shows growth, right? And I think what I shared today was proficiency data, but we can certainly provide the same data that looks at how our charter school students growing in those charter schools when they get there, right? Even if they, start in a charter school in 6th grade and maybe they're very behind, how are the charter schools growing those students? That's certainly data that we have available and we can get you. As far as like curious things that like set the families apart or make them different, I don't know what we would have readily available to provide. But if you can think of something, I would certainly try to get you the information if you have something specific you're wondering about.
Thank you, members. Any additional questions? Assemblymember DeLong.
Thank you, Chair. Great presentation. Really appreciate it. I have basically a follow-up question on Assemblywoman Mosca's question. Do the other LEAs in the state have the same restriction with regards to what type of charter school can be opened, i.e. underserved areas, or do they have a greater freedom on where they can set up a school?
Melissa Mackinnon, for the record. I believe that, let me follow up with you on that. I think I'm right, but I want to be 100% right, and I'll get that information to the committee.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Our legal counsel will go ahead and take a look at that too and see if we can find anything and help provide that to the members. And I'll make sure that it's provided to you if we find it before your staff does. And members, any additional questions? All right, I did have a question because I know that there are conversations right now about local governments being able to open charter schools in their communities, like City of Las Vegas, City of Henderson, I know is interested. There's a couple others that are interested in opening schools in their area. My question would be whether or not the requirements of SBCSA that exist right now for the schools that they authorize currently exist for those schools that would be authorized by local governments.
Melissa Mackinnon, for the record. Thank you for that question. Some do and some don't. So right now they are set up the way the statute reads to be the authorizer. So if you go back to that slide that was like, what are the responsibilities of the board, right? That's like approving new charter applications, approving amendments, approving renewals, like their oversight. They have to do like a academic, financial, organizational framework, site visits, all of those authorizer tasks, they are responsible for. The way the statute currently reads, which is going to be a major component of our bill, is getting it changed, is that the SPCSA will be the LEA for those municipality schools. Now, obviously, I talked to you about what the responsibilities were of an LEA. It's basically FAPE. It's making sure that free, appropriate public education is happening, and it's really difficult to be the LEA for schools that you don't oversee. It would be the same thing as if saying like Clark County is going to be the LEA for Washoe County schools, right? Like that just doesn't make sense. Washoe County School District is the LEA of the charter schools they oversee. Clark County is the LEA of the charter schools it oversees. Carson City has a charter school. They're the LEA of that charter school. So certainly we are hoping to get that changed, Chair, but the way it reads right now, we would be the LEA for those schools.
Thank you. I appreciate the clarification. Yes, that's some concern that I would have with local governments. Just would need to have the resources, but then also we'll need to set up the systems and structures in order for them to provide that oversight. Because I know that the SBCSA, I think, is an exemplar across the nation for how you authorize and oversee charter schools and work with NDE. And so my concern, just as we continue to expand different educational opportunities in our community, I just want to make sure that other local education agencies are held to the same standard. So I look forward to continuing that conversation. Sorry, that was a very specific question that might have been very complicated, but thank you. I appreciate it. I don't believe there's any more questions at this time. All right, thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you for making time and staying on time today.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and go to the next item on our agenda, which is public comment. Members of the public may provide public comment either in person or by telephone. Written public comment may be submitted up to 24 hours after the meeting adjournment. The phone number to call in is 888-475-4499, and the meeting ID is 813-9654-3699. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per person. Please remember to state and spell your name for the record and indicate your affiliation, if any. Looks like I have public comment here in Carson City. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Kalen Evans, and I'm the president of the Washoe Education Association. We represent all of the certified professionals in the Washoe County School District, and I really appreciate the opportunity to address this committee, and I look forward to doing it many more times throughout the session. I just wanted to tell you about a quick story, a true story. A board member of mine teaches kindergarten in Washoe County, and she had how she would classify a student as brilliant. This 5-year-old was one of the smartest girls, she said developmentally, that she had ever taught. She's been teaching for over 15 years. But she also classified her as a handful, to say the least. This child had severe behavioral issues due to diagnosed disabilities, and the school did everything that they could to really support this child's behavior plans, additional supports, etc. This child's parents decided to move their child to a local charter school just this last year, and within a semester, this child is now back at her zone school. And the reason that she's back at her zone school is because of her behavior issues. The importance of servicing all students is something that I hold very dear to my heart because I was that child. I grew up in the principal's office. I never got to go on field trips. Throughout my entire career, I had, in the later years of elementary, I had 52 major behavioral infractions. And the reason I knew it was 52 is because my principal, my 6th grade year, brought me into the principal's office, printed off every single one of my infractions to let me know like what I had been up to. That led to middle and high school being suspended more times than I can remember. But fortunately, I had teachers that didn't give up on me. And ultimately, I had a school system that didn't give up on me. The reality is that this little girl's story is not a one-off. Hundreds of students every year are sent back to their zone schools due to behavioral issues or issues around being able to service all of the special education requirements that are required under IDEA. And so when we talk about issues around charter schools, I want to be very clear. It has nothing to do with the teachers, the administrators, the families, or the students who utilize.
Thank you for your testimony. Could you please provide any additional written comments to our committee staff?
Yeah, accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else here in Carson City wishing to testify in public comment today? Is there anybody in Las Vegas? I don't believe so. BPS, is there anyone on the line wishing to comment on public comment today?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to provide public comment, please press *9 now to join the queue.
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, please proceed.
Hi, my name is Ignacio Prado. I'm the Executive Director, Founder, and Principal of Futura Academy Charter School in East Las Vegas. We're an independent, nonprofit public charter school founded in fall of 2017 as a community of local educators that were teaching here on the east side of Las Vegas as a mission-driven school to provide an excellent public option. Another hat that I wear is I am the Vice Chair of the Statewide Public Charter School Association. I was glad to see this item on the agenda today. Found it very informative. I too am proud of the work that we have done here. I just wanted to reiterate that charter schools are now officially the second largest system in the state. We are serving more than 60,000 students, and specifically here at Futura Academy Charter School, students of all kinds, including students with disabilities. At this point, 13% of our students are students with disabilities. We're proud of that growing number. Our highest eligibility category is autism, students who have moderate to severe needs and require significant assistance. And it's one of our places that we always like to highlight as a place where the community has shown trust in our schools. And so although there might be criticisms where schools, teachers, administrators fall short, I think at the scale at which charter schools are operating now, we're no longer an oddity. We're the second largest system in the state, and we have thousands and thousands of examples where we are doing a good job. And so I'm happy to see that recognized in the presentation today, and extend an olive branch to any legislators or community members who would like to visit our school, but more specifically to learn about charter schools from the association. And so do not hesitate to reach out as you have questions throughout the session. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Hi, good afternoon. Alexander Marks with the Nevada State Education Association. Since 2017, NSCA has been asking for greater control and oversight of charter schools, especially given the separate and unequal dynamics between charter schools and neighborhood public schools. We've heard several assembly members today allude to that. Since 2017, NSCA collaborated on AB 78, requiring charters to notify districts and conduct needs assessments. In 2019, we sponsored a bill proposing a moratorium on charters, which was amended to mandate growth management plan. However, charter expansion surged with SPCA schools growing by over 25,000 students since 2019, while school districts lost 40,000 students. Today, the Charter School Authority is Nevada's second largest school district. We've also advocated the level of playing field in neighborhood public schools, and while the legislature has taken some action over the years, there remains fundamental inequities. For example, 100% of full-time teachers at a traditional public school are required to be licensed, not so with charters. When a student leaves a neighborhood school for a charter, the public funding for that student goes with them, but the neighborhood school's overhead costs remain. Charter schools can exacerbate existing inequities by creating barriers to entry for vulnerable students. This could be as simple as students with the greatest support of self-selecting into charters, effectively siphoning away students and with the most engaged parents, leaving students with greater needs and fewer resources. Also, charters are much quicker to expel students with behavioral problems and or issues, sending those students back into the neighborhood public schools, which again creates a two-tiered system of public education. And while the authority has worked on inequities for their student population, charters educate a significantly lower percentage of students with IEPs, students who are low income and English learners. These are some of the reasons NSCA opposed the expansion of the Matter Academy in Northern Nevada and the North Valleys in Reno recently. That new academy is slated to be built next to Washoe County's Alice Smith Elementary School, a school that currently is at 72% capacity. Won't get into the details of that lawsuit that we filed. I would encourage folks to go read about that. That is why NSEA continues to ask the legislature.
Thank you for your
greater controls and
testimony. Please
accountability for
support.
charter
Please
schools.
provide any
Thank
additional
you.
testimony in writing to the committee staff. Thank you. Next caller.
Chair, there is no additional callers for public comment at this time.
Thank you. This is everything that we have on our agenda. Are there any, do any members have any questions or about what's coming up? We do have our busy next couple of weeks, so be prepared for lots of hearings, lots of presentations the next couple of weeks. Next week, we will start taking a look at bills, but this week we'll just have introductory presentations. I also would like to let committee members know that we have presentations from NDE, the districts. If there's a specific presentation that you would like, please just reach out to me so that we can work on that if that's a possibility. But a lot of times the scheduling just has to do with the constraints of the individuals that we're working with to come to present. So our committee staff has been great. Ms. Lower has had to deal with everybody canceling and rescheduling and moving things around because they have board meetings and stuff. So we've been working on getting everybody scheduled. But please let me know if there's something specific you'd like to see in the next couple of weeks. But at this time, we are adjourned until Thursday, February 6th at 1:30 p.m.